I'm doing a TikTok not a TikTok, a YouTube, because TikTok is updating. Okay. And I don't know I don't know, maybe somebody can answer this, why on some phones it seems like, and I don't know if it's really our phones, or they're just doing more updates and these apps lately. I don't know. It's just like, how many times do you need to update? Like, I don't think that TikTok has changed, like lately. I don't think anything on TikTok has changed, so I don't understand the need for constant updates. But anyway, so a lot of times, we put so much emphasis on titles and the way that, we think people should be. Okay. And so that's not the title of this as a title, but um, but I mean, I always want to call a talk something, like, to give you the general info on what it's about, and so then you can choose if you really want to listen to it, if it's something of interest to you. And so, anyway, but this would be do my prophets no harm. Okay. And so, someone that is sent by God, all right, somebody that's sent by God to to bring you a message, because the thing is, sometimes we get so busy in our daily lives that we don't listen to God. Okay. And so I know sometimes God has sent somebody right to me. And there was a situation in Bellevue, Idaho, and I was, I could talk about it now. I mean, what are they going to do, And I was told by a friend, they probably wouldn't have wanted you to get on the bus and go to Haley, from Bellevue, because I had put myself into assisted living to get my meds straight and to get just better on an even keel, because there was just a death in the family that I was not taking well. And so I put myself in assisted living. And so anyway, I didn't know what it was. I did not understand. And a lot of people that suggest assisted living to you don't get it and don't understand, what they're telling you to do. Okay. You very minimal rights. All right. You have to be the type of person to um, conform. And, well, for those of you that know me, it just didn't go well. All right. And there's some things that I would have, if I had a chance, I would do over. I would have gone with the flow on a few things a little more. But there's just things, and I'll say, I mean, if they ever want to come at me, there's just things that you don't do to people that are vulnerable. And the we have so-called advocates, all right, that we can get a hold of if we feel like our rights are violated, which I did. And well, there was a predator there. And so, which I did get a hold of one of the um, people that was supposed to help me, so to say. And they met with me. They just kind of dragged their feet, because we're talking about, a lot of people want to call it um, like it's worse than this area I'm living in now. Is just really Podunk area, Podunk, Idaho. It's a one-horse town, and you're not going to get along. I mean, oh my gosh, it's really. I mean, you think that my town is bad as far as rednecks, It is really redneck, and redneck land. I hate to say it, but it is. And I mean, you walk into any convenience store, and I'm sure that they feel more entitled now to say something, and they will tell you how absolutely terrible you are for being on food stamps, and that they don't have to wait on you, that they lots of really fun things, all right, they say to you. And I was, you can't be like, if you're in assisted living, okay, when you first move in, you might have food stamps, but because they provide food and stuff like that, you are at the end of the line as far as food stamps, okay? Like they'll give you maybe one more month, and you spend it, and then you're at the end of the line, because you're literally in an institution, so they provide the food. And so I had a family member say, "Oh, you'll love it. You'll have good food." I have good food now. I know how to cook. My family doesn't give me credit for knowing how to cook. I made a pie one time for them, and they didn't even eat it, and I felt like it was really very rude, but that's just the way they roll, But she said, one of the family members, "Oh, you'll love it. They have good food. They have processed food. Their main thing is to make money off of you. So everything that they provide is like processed." Like I was talking about, I was talking to my stepdad before he passed, and I'm like, "So do they have the mystery meat there?" And we kind of laughed about it. He's like, "Yes, they do." And he says, "I gag it down. I absolutely hate it. I try just not to eat that much." And he was an eater. He really was an eater. And so somebody that really tries not to eat that much, that just loved food, that will give you an idea. It was, yeah. And so, but I mean, they served some good things, and we had a good cook. I love that lady, and I'm better now. I am so sorry for the way I acted, and the things that, I mean, she really loved me when I first got there, but as I declined, not so much. And I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. But the thing is that I was told by a friend that they probably would not have liked it if they had known that I hopped onto a bus while I was living there and went to Sun Valley. I had somebody there had told me that, and they were telling, I think they told me that to get me out of there. I think that the CNA there told me that to get me out of there. She knew very full well that I would get evicted, but she said my insurance would pay it, and I didn't have to pay a dime. So that, woohoo, I got SSI money that I can spend, and I mean, it was my first time in assisted living, and so anyway, the director says, "Well, I don't believe that anybody told you that." Well, you believe whatever you want, but that's what they told me. They said that, it was a nurse told me, she says that my Medicaid would pay for it, and I don't have to pay, and they wanted to be my payee, so I don't know, I just wasn't thinking straight, that's why I was in there. But they wanted to be my payee, but SSI said, when I went to the one in Twin Falls, they said, wouldn't let them be your payee, because once you let them be your payee, it might be hard to get out of there. It might be, it's going to be very difficult. And, the agent looked at me and was like, "Why are you even there?" I'm like, "Well, because I'm not doing well." He's like, "Well, yeah, but you could have gone to the hospital. You could have, he says, "I don't suggest this." He says, "Just, you know what, have fun." And he even said, he says, "Have fun with your money. Have fun with your money." In other words, he didn't say it, didn't come right out and say it, but in other words, just don't pay rent and get out of there, And I didn't understand what he was saying. It was not my intention not to pay rent. He just said, have fun with your money. And so, anyway, it was an experience. And so do my prophets no harm, okay? So do I have to sit there and worry about that there was a predator there? That, do I have to worry about that? No. Do I have to worry about that anymore, that they didn't do anything about it and they should have? No. Because, I reiterate this as much as I possibly can, that there's going to be a day of reckoning for them. There really will be. There will be a day of reckoning for them, that they're not going to get away with it. But you might look at this life and think that, well, everybody talks about the afterlife and they should pay now. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. That, when the Lord comes back, he's going to clean house. When when this new world is here, he's going to clean house. But right now, in this present world, okay, and there will be a new earth, but right now on this earth is this corrupted earth. Unfortunately, some really nasty things are going to take place. And so it's going to take the Lord coming back. Some of it they're going to have to pay for right now, but some of the other things, okay, when it comes to people in charge, a lot of times you're going to see them win. And just know, be very comforted that they're not going to be winning forever, okay? He's going to have to pay for what he did. And it wasn't really, and I don't want to get too graphic, lest I get kicked off. It wasn't like it wasn't really drastic, but it was more along the lines of, let me do an examination on you so that he could see me. You get it? You get what I'm saying? And so he probably just still does it to countless numbers of people. Probably still does it, and that's sickening. And I did talk to one of the other residents. She's like, yeah, you made me feel uncomfortable, but I don't really want to say anything because I like living here and I don't want to jeopardize. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't, just to live somewhere that you're going to seriously let a man take advantage of you just to live somewhere, And so anyway, it's really a sickening thing when people say people look like they're well, okay? Professionals look like they're well. And more of this, and God leads me to talk about certain things, and so I set out to talk about one thing, and God wants me to bring this up because the thing is that with our current administration, that's what is going to happen with your loved ones. How you vote matters. Okay, and they are hiring people for the care field that do not belong there. And this guy, he did not belong there. And so, anyway, but you think your loved ones are, hey, okay, that they're okay. Oh, well, see, and now these are people that are taking care of them, are people that are, together mentally. And they're not. I can tell you, they're not. They're hiring more and more people with a past that you would not feel comfortable with. And because, I'm not sure if the HIPAA violations, if that's just for the patient or if it's for the employees too. But I think it is for the employees too, because I'm just trying to think of what that's called. If that's connected to OSHA, an organization called OSHA, and to a point, protecting them, okay, if they're if they're not convicted of something that is going to conflict with the work that they do, okay, all right. But if it's something that's going to conflict with the work that they do, then don't hire them, okay? You don't have to say what their past is, all right? You don't have to tell everybody broadcast, okay, they came here, they applied here, all right? You don't have to tell, and I looked, I did a background check, and guess what I found? You don't have to do that. Just don't hire him. I don't know why you would, you know? So this guy, I don't know if he had a past or not, and I'm not saying his name, but I will say that it was something. It was that I couldn't believe that he would do an examination that many times and declare an examination and no really he didn't have a valid reason. Okay, he did not have a valid reason, and so if he wanted to get on here and clap back at me and tell me that the reason, he did give a reason, but it wasn't valid. And that many times to do an examination on somebody. And one of the CNAs, okay, she was there for one of them, and I seen her shake her head, but she didn't go to the boss. She didn't do anything. She didn't do anything. They just turned their head. They turned their head to it. Money was more important, you know. And so the one that was the cook, she was she was a very awesome lady, you know, and she did talk to some of the staff members, and they were agreeing, but they, you know, that hey, one day, you know, we'll be to the point that, you know, that we need care. And so we need to care for these people the way that we would want to be cared for. And so anyway, and they did talk about how there was a popularity game kind of between staff, and they did talk about how us as disabled people, some of us were disabled, and they could kind of see how we were mistreated, and that they as minorities because they were, you know, the different races, I'm just saying it, that the people that were, you know, of different races, Hispanic and of that nature, and, you know, of different races, they were probably the best the best caregivers to us. The best caregivers, you know. The minorities were the best caregivers, and I don't hate to say it because it is something positive. It's, you know, they were the best caregivers, but they were not the higher ups. And so there was a degree of I'm afraid to lose my job kind of thing. And so anyway, you know, but yeah, I mean, it that was my really only regret, is that I declined. But how can you not decline when all of that is going on? So, you know, you don't realize, okay, that as a caregiver, all right, some of these people that you're caring for, all right, they are anointed. They are still, you know, they remain. You can't change that. They're children of God, okay? They're anointed. And they are, some of us, you know, still have gifts, and it doesn't, our disability, it doesn't change that. Some of us have prophetic gifts. Some of us, you know, the Bible talks about all the different gifts, and how one is not any more important than the other. And there was this one girl, I don't know if she's still there, but anyway, her and I, we really clicked first, until I started declining. I would say she had the gift of giving. She was a giver, and she was an encouraging person. She liked to encourage people, and everybody loved her, and she was just a joy to be around. Okay, so this the higher up, okay, he made her feel uncomfortable. Okay, she's a child of God, so he is building a case for Judgment Day. All right, and you had to be. The place couldn't be here. All right, they were in my town. All right, but they couldn't be here. They were not allowed to rebuild here, and yeah, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. Um, and it was just a beautiful town to live in. I mean, I loved living there. There were walking trails all over. I just didn't like the politics of it. Okay, I really didn't like the politics of it. And so, do my prophets no harm. This man that I knew, all right, briefly, all right, he was fired, and I knew him on a professional level, and he was fired, and it wasn't right, and he was just a very different sort. Okay, very different sort. Um, but see, God uses the very different sorts, and so anyway, he says I can't go to church anymore. Can't go. And I said, well, why don't you change and he told me the reason. I said, why don't you change your religion? He said, no, because there's so many things that I do believe within that religion, but I just don't feel comfortable going. And he told me why, and he shared some things, and I could tell right off that he really did have a prophetic gift, and so he lost his job, ended up being homeless. And, you would think that he would be bitter. I mean, I struggled with bitterness so much. I mean, I had lost all my friends, and I had become homeless. And some of us have an easier time with it than others. And he was one that it didn't change him severely, so maybe he'd had hardship before. But, I'm like, this is I was so mad. Like, I almost had a fit in the parking lot when he told me of the grocery store. And he says, no, it's okay. It really is. He says, it's really okay, and he's like, God will get me through it. And so, just, what? Just realize that, man, you just don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know who God is sending into your life if you're an employer. Okay, and maybe God has a word for you through that person. If you are a caregiver, you could be working with God's anointed, so be careful who you take advantage of, because when God says do my prophets no harm, he means it. And there's it can be a swift punishment when you decide to mess with God's anointed.